Hey free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. So right now we don't really have a lot to do. It may or may not be a bad thing. So for me personally, I have other stuff in my life, so that is still working out pretty fine for me. But in terms of things to do, unless you're waiting for Limbo to reset, then what else can we do? Let me know what your short-term objectives are down in the comments below. But for me personally, what I'm doing is I'm trying to speed up all of my existing material grinding stages. Just try to optimize it as much as possible, shorten the number of rounds needed, shorten the seconds needed as well for every single one of my quadruple runs, right? So that is essentially my goal right now, and for me, I'm trying to spend my stamina to invest into the i3 materials that is needed for some of the future characters out there. They may not be your goals, but for this video, I just want to give you guys an idea of how I'm optimizing my runs so that I'm spending even less time in the game than I need to. So I think right now, due to the number of things that we can do, most players are probably only spending about 5 to 10 minutes every single day in the game. But yeah, I'm trying to shorten it as much as possible as well. Okay, so for today's video, let's talk a little bit more about chapter 4-21. I mean, this is probably translatable into any of your other maps out there, other story stages. If you want to optimize it, you can definitely figure out a way to make it a little bit faster. Let's quickly go through all of the stats of all my characters that I'm using, right? So we have Centurion here. Here are all of her stats. She has like more than 50, she's about almost 60% crit rate. And we have the stats of Beacorn, and here you go. So not a lot of crit rate over here, but I think it's pretty decent because I use her for like general stuff. I don't really use her too much for DPS directly, but here are Pickle's stats. So about 45% crit rate. I am running him with a crit build because I just need him to push DPS as much as possible, and I have Eternity with the crit build as well, 42% crit rate over here. And you can see that these are all of the side cubes that I have equipped on them. Now let me explain how this run works and how I achieved 4 rounds clear, taking no damage from the boss wave itself. At the start, my objective is very simple. I just need to make sure that 3 of my characters have their ultimates ready. The first is going to be Centurion, the second is going to be Pickles, and the third is going to be Eternity. These 3 need to have their ultimates up so that I can deal AoE damage during the boss wave. Now, one more thing to take note of is Centurion has the Hopscotch side cube, which means she needs to take the last hit on the first enemy in the first wave. So by planning to make sure that 3 of my characters have their ultimates and Centurion takes the last hit because of Hopscotch she's going to do a little bit more damage, we move on to the boss wave. Now in the boss wave, things are very simple, but RNG comes into play a little bit. So we have to keep on rerunning this until we have perfect setup. Now the perfect setup is going to look like this. We need to make sure that we have Beacon's debuff at the start of the second wave. And if it is level 1, we can use Vertin's skill to raise it up to level 2 so that we have 20% defense reduction as well as increasing the damage taken by 20% on the enemies as well. Now by doing so, we can use the rest of our ultimates here. It's not going to affect Pickles all that much, but we are using Pickles to increase our DPS output by another 30%. However, for Eternity and Centurion's ultimate, they both deal AoE damage and they both deal reality DPS at the same time, which is perfect with Beacon's debuffs. So Pickles should aim the crystal at the back because the crystal has the most HP, and then we're going to follow up with both of our AoE ultimates. So the best case scenario is that we land a whole ton of crits, and if you're able to luck out on the crits, which is not very difficult, that will effectively kill off all the limbs, both the arms and the crystal at the back. Now with those out of the way, what we need to do right now is with our 4 actions, the first 3 actions need to go into AoE attacks, or rather mass attacks. But you notice that the second skill that I'm using is a level 2 AoE attack, because if you're using a level 1 AoE attack, that will not be enough DPS to kill the crystal at the back. So we just need to make sure that we are aiming our level 2 AoE attack on the crystal, and it's a lot better to use it as your second or your third skill and not your first skill because RNG becomes a little bit crazy. Now ideally what we need to happen is one of the AoE attack needs to hit one of the limbs, one of the AoE attack needs to hit the main body, and that should be true for all of our attacks. But we got kind of lucky by screwing up a little bit with our level 2 skill. It's just that you need to make sure that you specifically target the crystal for one of your AoE attacks to make sure that you kill it with your level 2 AoE skill. Now with that, we're going to finish off with Beacon Bloom's ultimate, which we actually got ready in the first round of the second wave by dropping her debuff skill. Now you should be able to deal enough damage to one-shot the boss. If you're not able to do so, you might want to rerun this until you get really perfect RNG. But this honestly took me about 2 hours just to prepare and to make sure that it runs smoothly. So yeah, there you go. So this is the way that we can use 4 rounds, taking no damage from the boss at all, to ensure that we have the fastest possible run in this particular story stage. Now of course, chapter 4-21 is not the only stage that I am mini-maxing. I'm also mini-maxing everything else because you're going to need to farm a lot of resources from many different maps as well. So why not just make them super fast, right? So anyway, this mini-maxing is keeping me very entertained. I'm not sure about you guys, but let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What are you doing right now when the game is at a very stagnant state? It's safe to say that we're all waiting for 1.2 to drop, which will come in 1 week's time. But if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to give a thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Reverse 999 content. Now with that said, this has been Derek Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.